What's up, WWT Live? We're talking all things Trinity and Mercedes and NXT and so much more coming up next.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go off. This is Shayna, the Queen of Spades, Baszler, and you're watching Women's Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What's up, y'all? Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. WWT Live, the Wednesday edition. And I am not low. Let me get the video, because it needs proper entry.
Go forward. 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 Go forward.
I'll tell you what, 2024, boy. We need all of that. We need all of that. The professor's in the building. I saw little professor was getting his professoring on in some photos.
Yes, he was with me Friday night for my first show, and it was his first show as well, his first live wrestling show, and he had a blast. It was absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2024. This ought to be already an incredibly interesting year for sure.
It is. I just did his name is Gerald. So I can't remember the show, but I just did a show earlier today, just kind of talking about predictions and stuff for 2024. And it's one of those things where the excitement across the board is real. And there was another wrestling journalist who presented a different theory, and we could probably just get into it. We can go to the last night and just kind of get into go backwards a little bit to the highlighted stories. Shout out to Dylan in the chat. Shout out to Stella in the chat. Shout out to Bobby in the chat. So one of the girls, I believe her name is Ziane. She said, because she according to her, she has a degree in public relations and marketing, that Tony knows what he's doing. He kind of sets up these tweets, does these tweets, and he knows what the response that he's going to get. Even with the response with Jinder Mahal, and you look at the numbers and how many people responded versus how many people responded with the Jinder Mahal comment, and even Jinder Mahal commenting back, that at the end of the day, people are still talking about it. So I guess the question for everybody, and I guess you as well, Professor, is like the fake TK, like an evil genius with these tweets? Because everybody was telling you to put his phone down, but we're still talking about the tweet.
Evil genius. Here's one of the things that I've seen that I think is very interesting about wrestling Twitter and the wrestling socials is a lot of people will put 2 and 2 together and get 6 and find a very convincing way to coerce everybody that it's 6. Last week was a perfect example. WWE had their first week of programming and they called it New Year's Knockout. And then on Wednesday, and they had said Thursday, Triple H was going to have this massive announcement. Wednesday, TNA, who is officially TNA now, they dropped this package, and in this video package, they're no longer calling their pay-per-views. They're now calling them premium live events. And as soon as people heard that, everybody assumed that this whole deal on Thursday was going to be Triple H announcing a working relationship with TNA. They put everything together, even the whole idea that he used the term knockouts for New Year's as, that's a connection to TNA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the announcement was that Money in the Bank is going to be in Toronto, and there's a whole weekend happening in Toronto. Nothing about TNA. Not to say that there isn't a potential working relationship between the two, but it is to say that we can easily put 2 + 2 together and get 6. With all of that said, to call the other TK an evil genius? And let's just think about this for a second. So we think it's an evil genius move for him to watch the competitor's show,
Mhm.
bring out a point about the competitor's show,
Mhm.
and that's evil genius. The same way a few months ago, the same evil genius decided to look at the numbers historically for John Cena, The Undertaker, and say, hey, this is the lowest amount they've ever drawn on TV because they had 925,000 people show up for NXT when they beat Dynamite. I, I don't think it's evil genius. I do think it is a leader who is, I think he's trying to stay in the wrestling conversation and justify his moves, because the point of that was comparing, why is Jinder Mahal, why are you mad about Hook getting a world title match when the competitor just gave Jinder Mahal a world title match and Jinder Mahal hasn't won a match in a year?
Mhm.
I don't think so. Is that genius? No, it's not. It's not. There've been too many of these occurrences, and none of these occurrences have um resulted in AEW's numbers trending upward. So to me, the proof would be in the pudding. If he did these things and then the numbers in AEW, be it ratings, social engagement, etc., increased, then we could say, yes, it worked. The only thing that increased was interaction with Tony Khan.
Okay.
So you
Because
see
I
that?
mean, you look at Dylan's point. Have you ever noticed that fake TK only does these outbursts because he tweets every day? So he
Mhm.
only does these outbursts when a big AEW show is coming up. So
I disagree. For instance, that whole big thing that I mentioned about John Cena and Undertaker happened after they lost that massive show. When I say lost, it
mm,
was that ratings one-on-one on that Tuesday that was Tony Khan's birthday. That happened after that.
oh
Um,
man, that was so bad.
I don't I don't know. Now tonight's show, going back to Daly's place, is a homecoming of sorts, which is super cool. I don't know that
Hmm.
they deem that as a big show. This is not a pay-per-view. Sting's last match isn't yet. So I don't, and they haven't been doing the kind of social media blitz that would tell you this is a big show. You know what I mean? So I don't know that I necessarily agree with that theory. Um, and again, if that were the case, he would have said a whole lot more before World's End, which was their big
Mm,
pay-per-view. And he did not. In fact, most of the attention that happened for World's End was the article that MJF wrote the day before, and then shortly after that, the whole Chris Jericho debacle. None of that had anything to do with Tony Khan. So I can't necessarily say that Tony Khan does these kinds of things only when big shows happen, because there's too much evidence to the contrary.
okay, okay. Um,
And
let's
there's a
read some of
lot
these.
of tweets happening. There's a lot of chatter,
Oh
which
my
is good.
God.
It's really good.
Yeah. So Bosa's saying, so shout out, what if Bosa happened 2024 outside Ricky Starks versus Sammy? TK isn't really advancing any storylines unless Mercedes shows up. This is 1 week. You can skip, nothing missed. This kind of leads me to the question with the whole Mercedes thing.
Okay.
And this is the point that I had earlier today.
Mhm.
So obviously we talked about it at nauseum. Trin and Mercedes left for a year straight. There were stories about Trin and Mercedes for a
Yep.
year. Mind you, they still to this day haven't told their full story.
Correct.
I think Trin kind of let certain things, she'll say certain things, but it's not like a sneak diss, it's not shade, it's just a matter of fact thing. But the
Mhm.
full story of Trin and Mercedes hasn't been told by them.
Correct.
Fast forward now, we're still talking about them, and they're both just living their best lives. Meaning that, like Mercedes, she could literally have a whole plan. So, for instance, I got the opportunity to speak to Jody Threat today. She was talking, and this is old news, but for 4 months, she was signed to TNA Impact last year, and nobody knew. So
Right.
the thing is, like we want to predict these things. Like, okay, so say say your birthday is coming up, right? You look through the whole house and you find the present that your significant other was hiding away for you for months. It was something that you've been wanting about. You find the present, the person hasn't been able to give it to you. Then what?
Mm-hmm.
So why can't we just why can't, like, I understand it's a fine balance because we're in this space as well, but
Sure.
to like do all these, like you were saying, the 2 + 2 = 6 type thing, we're doing all this stuff and it's like sometimes we just have to take a breath and let it, like, in particularly with Trin and Mercedes, they're going to do things on their own time. When I did say that they're both big ticket people, that they can ask for whatever they want, whether it's WWE, AEW, whatever. And if those people don't want to give it to them, they can do other things. So, the all the stuff with them and where they're going is just kind of like, we might have to put it in the box. But before you answer, I guess we're doing new things for 2024.
Yes, we are.
He has decided to grace us with his presence. With the bow tie on.
Oh my.
Steady Said is in the building. What's good, Steady Said?
Happy New Year, everybody. This is what you get today. I didn't feel like changing my clothes. This is what I look like. So how they say that 3%. This that 3%. This that 3% that's not to be messed with. And this is what I bring to WWT in 2024.
Oh, here I'm
like
thinking this is we're gonna get Steady Said in the bow tie every episode. I was like, okay, like
you might. If there's a demand for it, who am I to deny the people their desires?
Wow. With that being said, I'll let Professor, you can hop in the whole, where do we think Mercedes, and again, of course, the title is Final Destination of Trinity and Mercedes. And if you guys haven't gotten it from my slight monologue, it's wherever they decide to end up. I'm gonna be happy for them no matter what, because like the great Issa Rae says, I'm rooting for everybody black. So wherever they end, as long as they get paid, as long as they're happy, I don't care. So what do you have to say?
Well, I do think a couple of things are interesting. It was a year ago, literally at this time, where two things happened. Number one, a year and 6 days ago, a certain Mercedes Mone premiered and debuted in New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom and set the world on fire. The worst kept secret ever. And we were right here on this very show talking about where would Trinity end up. And we were pretty convinced that she'd be like number 30 at the Royal Rumble. And when that didn't happen, we were just like, well, where will she go? And we had finally just said, all right, perhaps she's done. Like, if they don't pull the trigger on Royal Rumble and they hadn't pulled the trigger on Survivor Series, we don't know what they're going to do. Here we are a year later. I don't think anybody anticipated the different trajectories that both Mercedes and Trinity would have. I think it's safe to say Trinity had the best year of her career. I don't think anybody will argue that. Being the Knockouts world champion, representing that brand, really being the first woman to fully lead a brand like Impact. As in, the numbers all increased in terms of socials, pay-per-view buy rates, all the things. She did that. She moved the needle. And so here we are at this space, and much to echo what TK said, more and more, I am less and less a fan of dirt sheets. I just am. To me, the guys who do the dirt sheets are like meteorologists. They get to be wrong most of the time and keep their jobs. I don't know how that happens, but they do. And part of the reason it happens is because wrestling fans are just so amped to get behind the curtain that they will believe anything that's put out because so-and-so said it. For instance, all this time, none of us ever really knew. Hold on, go back to that. Go, because I'm going to go there. I wouldn't forget Gail Kim's impact. Nobody said Gail Kim didn't have an impact, but Gail Kim at no point was the face of Impact. She was the face of the Knockouts division. But during that same time, they had AJ Styles, they had Samoa Joe, they had Kurt Angle, they had all these people that they were building their brand on. In 2023, they built it around Trinity. hands down. Now, back to my point, which is I don't think that wrestling fans do the business justice by leaning on whatever these dirt sheets say. Like, I've always had simple questions. Like, for instance, who is the person in these organizations that's leaking this information? That's what I want to know. Like, who's the person in TNA that goes, oh yeah, by the way, here's when Trinity's contract is up? Because all this time, none of us really knew how long her contract was. Now all of a sudden we know. You know, who are these people? Now, what I can appreciate lately is the WWE has gotten a lot better with preserving their surprises. You know, for instance, everybody seemingly thought that the former WWE champion showing up at day one was going to be Andrade because of what they heard on the dirt sheets. And Andrade, so everybody was shocked when there was The Rock. Like, I think WWE has been figuring out how to keep surprises so that we as fans can be excited, because again, surprises are what make us excited. So in terms of where they're going to land, I have no idea. I could talk about what I think would be good for them, but what I think would be good for them and what they think would be good for them could very well be two different things.
Right.
And I acknowledge and respect that. For me, I think the landscape is, you know, first of all, I'll say that Mercedes and Trinity are not one size fits all in terms of what should happen for them because of how 2023 went for them. In both cases, I will say, I don't think that they have accomplished enough to go back to WWE in the spot that they deserve to be in. Now, that's not diminishing what they've done. It's saying, you know, okay, you spent 6 months in Impact and you've proven to be the face of that. I want to see her do that for like a year or more. You know what I mean? Think about it. When Cody went away and came back, it was about 6 years. When Drew McIntyre went away and came back, it was about 6 years. And they had established enough cachet where they could now immediately go from being mid-carders to main eventers. I want to see that happen for Trinity. I want to see that happen for Mercedes. Here's the other problem that nobody anticipated. Nobody anticipated a new head of creative in WWE. Nobody anticipated all of the star power that exists in WWE right now, especially with the women. So think about this. Charlotte Flair gets injured. She's going to be out for about a year. And we're not missing star power in WWE because we still have Rhea, we still have Io, we still have Bayley, we still have Asuka and Bianca, and like I'm rattling names off, Becky and Nia, right? Like all of these names, which there was a time we couldn't do that before. So if Trinity were to come back now, if she's already been a world champion somewhere else, she should deserve to be a world champion in WWE. Right. But how would you make that happen in the next 3 months? I don't know. So that's why I'm saying from where I sit, it wouldn't be a good move for her to come to WWE right now. Could she get a bag? Sure. But I don't think she left because of money. She left because she wanted a certain spot on the card, which she deserved, quite frankly. But in this environment, I don't know how that happened. So what I'd like to see, if it's me, I'd like to see a working relationship between WWE and TNA where she shows up at the Rumble as the Knockouts champion and continues to do what she does in TNA, and all is right with the world. Just my
Mickie James did it, so it's
exactly.
It's
There's precedence.
So,
There's absolutely yeah.
Said he said we call you something else with the bow tie. I don't know. You go by a different name in the streets with the bow tie. I'm not sure.
What did I walk into today? You're going to have to tell me the original question. Do y'all take debit for the collection plate? All right.
So
I got to put in a donation right now. What was the original question?
So we started off with a lot of different things as far as, and we already passed this part, but we started off with Tony Khan being an evil genius with how he presents his tweets as of yesterday. And now we went on to the
evil genius?
Yes.
Not petulant child? What am I missing?
Okay, so I mean, we have new people joining, so let's go back. We'll let Fed answer the question, and I'll present it
What
to
am I
you.
missing in that? What?
So
Who?
what happened? So
Hold
what happened
hold
was,
on, hold on, because there's an interesting parallel to these tweets that I've been thinking about since last night. It's like this don't feel, and if this is controversial to anybody who lives in America, I'm sorry. This don't feel like Trumpism to you. This don't feel like those 4 years of presidency when you had somebody just pick up their phone, spouting off all this stuff, and then you have the followers that will be behind it and not be like, "Hey, you kind of got to." Nobody saying you got to chill. They just rah rah rah. It don't feel like that. Am I the only
I
one
mean,
that sees that parallel?
I feel like it really just depends on one. I take the Zoe Stark approach where I post and ghost, so I'm not really on social media like that. But when I do dibble and dabble in it, what I do see, and I think it's also according to who you follow. I'm seeing more people say hide Tony Khan's phone. That's what I'm seeing more of. I'm not seeing the opposite where it's like they agree with him. And where the evil genius thought came in, it's not my thought. I'll find the girl's name. She's also a wrestling personality. She said that she backed it up with her, whether it's true or not, it's Twitter. But she said she's a PR relations person and all the things. And she said that, Tony Khan was doing these posts in order to engage us more, to create more of a thing for AEW, and then Jinder Mahal responding, it kind of is the best for both businesses. Now, whether obviously numbers wise, WWE is always going to be on top, or 98% be on top, but we're still talking about it. Like, I mean, the amount of tweets, and again, I didn't do a deep dive, but just going from past stuff when Tony Khan does go on these rants, it's like hours people are spending on this stuff. So
Yeah, it's the old adage of
really on
like
purpose.
a reaction is a reaction, even just a negative reaction. But you see
Exactly.
more of the like, yo, what is he doing? Why are you doing this to your position? Like, because you don't expect that type of thing. But that I wouldn't. So it makes me think of a boxing parallel that just happened with Ryan Garcia calling out Devin Haney and saying he wants to fight him, but then pulling the curtain back and saying like, "Oh, your team moved too slow. We want to fight Raleigh now because I'm the draw pay-per-view buys." And they're saying it's the Mayweather effect of taking the easier route for champion. So you took the piggybacking off the bigger, more reputable name to do that. I don't think that's what Tony's doing. If you want to look in deep dive and say this was a plot or a plan, nah, I think he really is perturbed when he tweets. I think he's really chafed when he tweets. It's like he
Shaped?
he thinks
Wow.
about he thinks about the very first thing to say, and he says it as if there's not millions of eyeballs that are subscribed to him. And I think that's where it comes off where people are reacting the way it does. And I think if you look at hindsight, yeah, it's generating a good buzz because now more people will tune in to Hook chasing Samoa Joe. But on the flip side of that, you're making Jinder versus Seth Rollins, which will probably be like 15, 20 minutes. People will probably be talking about that as a match of the year by the end of 2024 because of how much attention you've drawn to it, when in reality, you're trying to say, don't look at them. Hey, look at me. Like it counters what you're trying to do just because you're in your feelings. And facts don't care about feelings. But now we've made more sense of a Jinder Mahal Seth Rollins match on a random Monday night than it probably ever needed to be in the beginning.
All right. Well,
That's
then
just the truth of it.
the professor already gave his point. The second thing I brought up was Mercedes and Trinity, and how there's just been a lot of talk as far as where they're going to end up. And my thing is, does it really matter? Wherever they end up, they'll be fine. And, it's just one of those things where it's just, here we are. And before you answer that, said, shout to Cousin Ron, shout to Eric, shout to Special Little Nobodies, shout to Tyler. I think you're new, so shout to you, Tyler, as well. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat. And shout to Colt 603. So your turn now, he said.
What's my man's name? Was it Tyler? Yeah. Pistons flag. I'm a diehard. Ain't no faking over here. We suck. It is what it is. So I just want to give you guys a different perspective. I think it does matter. And I think this news came out with the whole Trinity's return to WWE is imminent. I was watching, I think it was a video on Twitter, or maybe it was on YouTube, WWE's YouTube the other day, and it dawned on me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We don't know.
Trin was the inaugural Women's Royal Rumble winner, correct?
No, Asuka was the inaugural winner.
So she wasn't. So maybe that video was inactive.
Trinity's
I swear.
Yeah, Trinity has never won the Rumble.
What did I see that she won then, where she eliminated Bayley?
Not a
final
Rumble.
two?
No.
Was it a Dre?
I don't know. Asuka was absolutely that, and I believe 2018 was the year on that.
Maybe Trin was the inaugural WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal winner or something like that.
Now that is more accurate.
Oh yeah, she did win like
it was the WrestleMania Battle Royal, the Women's Battle Royal. Because the controversy around that is they originally called it like the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal.
Yeah.
And then they had to kind of change that because of all of the things going around about Moolah. But that's what she won, was the WrestleMania.
Yeah, so I know I saw her win at Rumble, but to counter what the professor was saying, she left, and everybody left on their own accord, right? I'm pretty sure Mercedes would have hoped her run was different than it was, but injuries happen. But one thing that is certain is that they've dominated the conversation cycle on social media. We've seen over the past several months that the WWE wants more social media engagement with all their moves that they're doing. They're breaking numbers time and time again. This is just another move if they were to bring them back that kind of continues dominating that sphere. Where it comes differently for somebody like Trin versus Mercedes is, I think they did appreciate Trin a lot from her time as SmackDown Women's Champion, giving her moment in her hometown at WrestleMania in 2016. I think they did, but I think when you look at the landscape, there just was too many mouths to feed. So she went on her own, did her own thing, and was at the top of her game. And I think some of those storylines you might have been pitching that were falling on deaf ears with different creative, now you hear them out. And it's like, oh, well, what could be? I know the professor always says that this could be the best of both worlds with this new Endeavor deal. It doesn't have to be like a full on signing where she leaves TNA completely, but can you do an extended stay in WWE for some time and go back? I think that's more what we're looking at. The Mercedes thing is different because since she picked up those extra trademarks, I think maybe she didn't get the ballpark figure that she wanted and is now trying to drive up the bidding war for her. But I do believe, just me, it's just my opinion, my heart of hearts, I don't think if she goes to AEW that anything changes with the landscape. Not from her matches being watched. I think she'll still drive the right engagement, the right viewership, stuff like that. I'm talking about how many women's matches we see as a whole. I'm talking about the level of meaningful storylines that are existing week to week on television program as opposed to anywhere else. I'm talking about the list of women's matches that happen on pay-per-view that exist out of a sphere that is more than 10 minutes. I don't think that landscape changes no matter who comes over there.
Exactly.
Well,
honestly,
it would
that's top down. That's systemic.
Right.
So it has to start from the top, and that belief has to occur for it to even result. So I don't think any name matters. I think they have the formula that they feel like works for their hardcore fans, and they're sticking with it for good, bad, or worse. That's just what it is. So for Mercedes, I'm not saying WWE. Sorry, I'm not saying she's the end game for WWE, but maybe just it's like a musical artist. Like maybe just staying independent right now is the best thing for you. Own your masters, do what you want, release what you want when you want to release it, and you get all your royalties. I don't think her being tied to a brand is her best fit right now, especially coming off an injury-riddled year.
Right. You said a couple key things, and you said beneficial. It'd be beneficial to WWE and or AEW for both ladies, and that's where I agree and disagree. Meaning that it's going to benefit the companies as far as social media and stuff like that, but it's not going to benefit Trenton if she goes over. They get the socials up, but there's no storyline. And my whole thing is, I think before you came on, was they're both at this point where if they're happy where they are or what they're doing, they can negotiate. And so for Mercedes, if I were going to AEW, those will be my negotiation terms, where it's like, and also if they want her that much, then you negotiate it where it's also benefiting a lot more of the ladies and not just you. So it's not going to be you are the only one who's going to have the 10 to 15 minute match and you're going to have it X number of times per month or whatever. You're going to kind of make it where it's beneficial for the whole women's locker room. However, you know what I'm saying? That's where, if money wasn't an issue and I rather be independent somewhere else, that would be like my caveat to going to somewhere like AEW. I wouldn't just go to AEW just because and then just follow the rules of everybody else. It's kind of like, if you want me here, then here are my terms and conditions. Just like when you get to a certain part, as far as working in a certain industry, at one point you can start negotiating your salary, meaning that you can come in at one, they can offer you something and you can counter. And you can only do that when you have leverage. You can't do that when you just graduated from college. There's no way they're offering you, 100K and you're like, I feel like I deserve 200. But you literally just graduated college like last week. Like, what's the difference between you and this person? Mercedes and Trin both offer a cachet where they can call for what they want. And if I were Trin, if I was going to WWE, I would want to be in the forefront of the title picture. There's, to me, other two things. If it's not part of, and I know most people are not gonna like this.
I think her thing is the biggest storyline going. It's like, I need to be in the bloodline.
Yes, if it's not the bloodline and if it's not the title, if it's not a title shot, then I want no part of it. Like, because why? Because I'm a champion somewhere else. I'm somewhere. It's this is gonna be a terrible analogy, so I'm preparing everybody. I am somewhere with the okay dude, but he treats me amazing. We go on trips, once in a while, but then you could go to the rich dude who can offer you everything, but he's going to treat you. You're going to be one of many. You're not going to be the queen. You're not going to be on the pedestal, but you're going to go on a bunch more trips. I'm going to go with the dude who's going to be on the pedestal, period. What? I don't want to be a cog in the wheel. Give me a break. Better than that.
I don't think I followed that well. So the guy would not, you don't want to go on the trips?
We go on trips once in a while. He has a modest job.
But that guy just gives you passport stamps and unlimited. So
right, but you're also one of the many girls. You're not going to be the
But
queen.
you get to do whatever you want. It's like, you don't got to answer to nobody. You get to do whatever you want. You get to explore the world, and you get to run up the check. He's like, hey, just give me my $500 stipend a day, and I'm gonna go get this food, tourism, and all that. And for Mercedes, her storyline is already cooked in as well. Her story, yeah, I'd rather spend money than time. That's fine. But Mercedes' storyline is cooked in as well, where everything that's happening with damage control, she can kind of slide right into that as Bayley's only ally if they chose to go that route. Whenever the eventual kick out happens.
Professor.
I think that it is just very beneficial where you can either be the face of a brand or, part of an ensemble. I think in this case, you'd want to be the face of a brand. It's to me the reason why Athena is very comfortable as the forever Ring of Honor Women's Champion. She's getting to main event pay-per-views. She's getting to be the focal point every week, as opposed to going on AEW, where AEW, is not featuring the women in the same way. So I think, again, this is what it also goes back to, and again, we can only go off of what we've heard and not, because we haven't heard from them specifically, but it goes into why they left in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. If what we've heard is true and they left because they felt like they should be in better positions, they felt like the women should be treated better there, then you go off elsewhere to live out what those visions can look like, right? So in that case, it's one of the reasons, it's why New Japan made sense for Mercedes, because they were building a women's division. She clearly was going to become the face of it. Nobody anticipated her getting injured, and nobody also anticipated New Japan, after her getting injured, kind of really backing away from their commitment to their women's division, such that last year the women's title was on the Wrestle Kingdom card. This year it was not. That should tell you all you need to know. Meanwhile, Trinity decided to go where they have the best women's division outside of the WWE, and that is Impact. So to me, it's like, okay, go into these places and prove what it is that you left to prove. I just feel like if they go back now, they haven't proven what they left to prove. And that to me is money isn't the issue. It's, going away, proving, hey, I am a household name. Let me show you how I carry these brands on my back. Let me show you how great of a wrestler I am. Let me show you the stories that I can tell. And now if you want me to come back, these are the kinds of stories that I need to be able to tell. I don't think they've accomplished that first part yet.
That's
now the
fair.
question is,
But isn't the shortcut already there?
Hold on. The question is, Professor, did you understand my analogy? That's the most important question.
I got where you were going. I got where you were going. It was a little controversial, but I got where you, that's oof.
Sorry, go on, Sid.
So my honest question is, isn't that shortcut there? Because we talk about simple stuff like keeping the relationships within the same brand, all the travel, stuff like that away from your partner. I'm pretty sure Jimmy and Trin would like to be under the same moniker again with the travel. That's just one thing.
They actually said they got closer. She did it.
Okay, so you get closer because you're further apart, but it's easier when you're on the same schedule. For Mercedes, and we don't know how long Charlotte's going to be out because that's a very serious injury. I think what she's doing training-wise right now is amazing, that early from surgery. But isn't that leverage for somebody of Mercedes ilk where it's like, hey, I wanted that money, but I want that spot right now while she's out, and I can show you. Put that in my terms and conditions and whatnot, because that spot's clearly available.
But they have people there who can handle that spot. They're not missing Charlotte Flair right now like they may have if this happened 2 or 3 years ago.
And at the end of the day, it's just about the companies. If both Trin and Mercedes present whatever they want, and again, say if they want a list of 8 things and the company says we can give you 7, then there's the win. But if they're like, hey, we want you back. Okay, what's my storyline? We don't know what your storyline is going to be yet. Or we can't guarantee this to you. And because I'm willing to bet there's 2 or 3 things that they really like. If I want to go back, this is what I'm going to go back to. So it's both or either or any of the companies that, particularly Mercedes line says, yes, we'll do that. And that's what she wants. And yeah, but if she wants something and the company's not willing to give it to her, she's still in a really great position from what we can see on paper and on social media. I don't know what her bank account looks like or any of that stuff. Hypothetically, it seems like she's in a good position. It's like, nah, I'm going to do this. And the good thing about where we are in 2024 and 2023 is we have so many different indies and places in the world where she can live her best life and then go and come back when she's healthy. So it really just depends. But just to go to WWE or AEW because they want you, they're beyond that. It doesn't. Okay, and just because you want me, I'm supposed to, because you're a bigger company, but this company is treating me amazingly, or you can't guarantee me this. And of course, there's storyline and all this other stuff, but they're in a very unique. We have been talking, and not us specifically, but in general for 2+ years on both women. And has Mercedes even given an interview? I think she might have done an interview with Logan Paul within that time period. Correct me or not. It might have been before she dropped the belt. But Mercedes hasn't done too many interviews. Trin has done, and Impact is very restrictive on what you can ask her. So Trin has done interviews, but nothing talking about any of this, nothing talking about what she wants, nothing talking about outside of what she's doing for Impact. So both women haven't done any interviews talking about any of that stuff. So how can we know, what is that they want for their career? There was a comment, I think it was Lil Nobody's, that said, how do we even know what's in their contracts? That's like, that is another thing too. That's a binding thing between 2 parties, unless one party gives whatever the organization is, whatever newspaper or publication, the contract, but I think that's illegal. So, you know, you're not supposed to, if you sign any contracts, you're not supposed to be showing it to anybody else. You can tell people certain details, but I don't think you're supposed to be, because it's a contract binding between two people. So
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier in the show, which is who is giving this information out in the first place. I think that's crazy. Here's the one part we have not dialogued about yet, and that is this: the way that TNA has treated Trinity. Why would Trinity necessarily want to leave that scenario when the reason she left, she's been able to do the things that she wanted to do, be the centerpiece of the company, et cetera, et cetera. She's been that in TNA. TNA did not drop the ball in terms of how they treated her. New Japan dropped the ball in terms of how things happened with Mercedes. And now, granted, Mercedes had an injury, but New Japan could have easily kept the women's title and the women's division prevalent. Meanwhile, TNA has done that. So here's what I think is interesting to me. You guys have been noticing on the socials, you know, as TNA has gone through this transformation from Impact to TNA, every day they have been revealing and unveiling their new championship belts. Interestingly enough, they've done all of the belts, including today the World Championship. They have yet to do the Impact Knockouts title. I thought that might have that the world title would have been last. So this could be one of two things. This could be they're saving the best for last, because that's pretty much the last championship to be revealed. And if that's the case and they do that last, that says a lot about what they think about the Impact Knockouts Championship, that it would be the final title that they reveal. I also think we'll really know Saturday at Hard to Kill what's really going on with all of this, right? Meaning, if
and both are saying that the Knockouts Tag Team Championship,
right? So I'm imagining they'd probably do the Knockouts Tag titles tomorrow, and then the Knockouts World title on Friday,
right?
Which is interesting to me. That's all very interesting. Secondly, if Trinity drops the title at Hard to Kill, that might give us an indicator in terms of what could be happening with the future of Trinity, perhaps. If she doesn't, and then here's the other piece. Impact TNA, I'm going to finally call them TNA. I got to get that in my head. They announced that there's going to be something huge happening in terms of we'll never believe who's going to show up when worlds collide at Hard to Kill. What on earth does that mean? Because we know it's not Okada and it's not Ospreay, because they'll be at Battle in the Valley on the 13th, but then they'll be at TNA on the 14th. So it's not them, and they've already been announced. To me, the only thing that could mean worlds collide could be something with the WWE. Which something? I don't know. So who knows? But I'll say this. I think, to Special Little Nobody's point, it is a very exciting time for TNA. And I don't see, because let's think about this. TNA lost Deonna Purrazzo. Could they really afford to lose both Deonna and Trinity as they are rebranding TNA? I don't know that that would be a wise move right now. So to me, and with all of the I'm saying, let me not say money, with the signings that TNA has recently done, because they went on a spree toward the end of 2023. They signed this one, they re-signed that one, all these things. What's to say that with all this noise out there, they haven't gone on and re-signed Trinity? I just don't see them handing her over. Not that she's property, don't get me wrong, but you understand what I'm saying? I don't just see them going, okay, we thank you for your service, thank you for the last 6 months, without a counter offer, without something, if this is even true.
Right. And then again, it goes to, she can go to back to WWE, or I mean even AEW or whatever, be a free agent. But why leave a place that treats you, from what I see, from what I've heard, a lot of people I've talked to in the locker room, why would you go from a place where it's the Impact Knockout division, storyline heavy, you can actually tell them your ideas. Not to say that they're always going to use them, but you can, there's an open door policy where ideas do get used and stuff like that. Why leave that right now
Right.
to go to,
It doesn't make sense. This isn't like when Chelsea Green left. When Chelsea Green left, it was definitely a move that was a promotion of sorts, if that makes sense. An opportunity in WWE to do some things, a bigger platform. Trinity's been there, right? So if you're a world champion, coming over and not being a world champion doesn't seem to work. I just think TNA has treated her too good for her to be like, peace, I'm out.
Yeah.
I just want to throw a disclaimer on this topic for all my folks in the chat watching these streams. We talk about the rich folk here. These are big adult decisions. For all my kings out there that are under 30 with a so-so credit score, go get your money. Get your PS5 for 5% of the time. Get your Jordans for 1% of the time. Don't play games. That's all I want to say.
Wait.
It's an interesting PSA. I'm not quite sure what for.
I'm not. Yeah.
That was the counter to TK analogy from earlier today.
Wow. Well,
that was to counter that analogy. Don't mess with a good thing. Don't mess with a good thing because you want to be cuddled in the winter. Like go use 5% of the time. 5% of the time, and you got the other 95 to do whatever you want.
Wow.
Like don't. That's from under 30s with a so-so credit score.
Wow.
Do the right thing.
But what you can do is get this merch.
Hey yo, you. Yeah, you that's watching this. You sitting on the couch staring at the screen not knowing what you want to do like this is an online college. Are you tired of wearing shirts that make you look like an extra stuck in catering? Do you want to step your wrestling swag game up to the next level? Then Women's Wrestling Talk has got you covered. Like literally. Are you for life in pink or black and white? Or maybe you're the EST and people need to respect you accordingly. Want to put some pride in your stride and show off the muscle in your hustle? Then make sure you check out the WWT store. Not now, but right now. Alright? What you waiting for? Head to www.talkpodstore.com and don't make me fight you. Shit.
Yes, I agree, Dylan. I don't know. I don't even know what to say with that. With a so-so credit, I mean, there's a lot of people with a so-so credit score, and those people, if you have a so-so credit score and you're treating your woman like a queen, like there's not a great chance that she'll leave you for some dude who's she's gonna be one of many. Like it don't make no sense. It's not adding up. But anyways, let's talk about The Rock.
What would you like to talk about?
I mean, where are we going? What we doing? We talked about him. We retired the story. He done gave us breadcrumb in Colorado, where Booney almost lost his mind. We are back here. He came in day one. I mean, the strike is over. He could do some work if he wants to, but now he wants to be at the head of the table. So where do we see this all going?
And I knew that was happening. I know we were supposed to hit day one. Once I found out he was in Pasadena, I just knew it was Dwayne. Like it just made sense. Same thing with him being in Colorado on College Game Day just a couple months ago. Have either one of you seen what's going on with Van Lathan right now with his like wrestling persona?
I don't know about the persona, but I did see him on The Ringer. I think he's been like an official host.
Yeah, so he's been on a wrestling kick as of late, where he is claiming to be wrestling media's #1 source and all these other things. I don't know where it came from. But I thought
I saw Kazim post it, and I was just kind of like, didn't he? Because I for you guys who don't know, so I used to work for TMZ, and I know Van, and I know he's a wrestling fan, but I was like, where's this all coming from? But that also seems like something Van would do. So go on.
But all that to say, he was on The Ringer, and he mentioned this whole thing with Dwayne treating WWE like a side chick, kind of coming as you go, and the money gets low. It's like I come back to you. I kind of agree with some of it, but I don't think this is that. I think that they had plans to do this last year, and it just didn't make sense. And honestly, I still don't think that it fully happened where people think there's going to happen. A lot of people are posting clips from the Young Rock where, this can only be done at WrestleMania type of thing. I think WrestleMania plans have been in place since the end of WrestleMania last year in Los Angeles. And I don't think it would take a hell of a lot to change that. I think what we're getting is a bigger elimination chamber headlined by The Rock and Perth, Australia, and there'll be tie-ins to everything that needs to happen for titles on both brands. But I think this is, again, just what a good time to be in that company because of the record-breaking stuff. Of course, you had CM Punk just return. Now you're getting tea leaves of Dwayne possibly being in a match. We still don't know what's happening with Jade Cargill, if she's going to make an appearance anytime soon. A lot of people are expecting a WrestleMania match between Bad Bunny and Logan Paul, which they haven't even laid the table for that yet. So I just think it's another, what do you call it? Another arrow in the quiver, if they want to use it. If they want to utilize that to like just throw another shot at the board, another bullseye, and say, hey, we got Dwayne versus Roman anytime we want, and now you guys are going to anticipate it.
I mean, it's a good redirect, just given the fact where the wrestling community is. It's like I said, it's like we want to know all these things before, like you want to be the first to know that this thing is going to happen before it happens. And I think the companies are getting onto that. Like you can't stop it, but you know, these people, you're going to give them certain things to do a redirection. So you're going to look over here and create all these, you know, create the whiteboard and create all these storylines in your head while WWE is over here doing what they originally planned to do. It's a good redirect that it is. Professor?
To your point, said, I do think that their plans have been in place. I just think none of us were aware of them. And so to think that The Rock showing up in January to start 2024 is just a random addition could be a mistake. You know, there's talk of, I see Boza saying Cody having to finish the story. Well, I think we need to define what finishing the story is and how long does he have to finish the story. What is finishing the story? Is that ending your career? Does winning the WWE championship mean that's the last thing you're going to do? Are you going to ride off into the sunset? Are you not going to defend the championship? Here's what I think. I think that there have been mistakes made over the last few years in terms of where matches were supposed to be. I go back to Brock versus Bobby Lashley was a WrestleMania caliber match that never happened at WrestleMania. The fact that the last time that they touched was the Elimination Chamber last year, that should tell you they're not going to make these Elimination Chamber mistakes again. I personally think it's a waste to bring The Rock versus Roman Reigns to the Elimination Chamber. It's a match we've been waiting for years. For years. And let me just also say this. One of the reasons why nearly every pay-per-view besides the big four is an international pay-per-view this year is because of the international reaction last year. They didn't need The Rock for any of those things. The fact that WWE is showing up in these countries doing stadium shows, that is enough. They've got, you know, Rhea Ripley showing up in Australia as the world champion at this point. What else do you need, right? You don't need The Rock versus, because here's the problem. WWE has done a very good job of establishing what your year-end major event is. It's WrestleMania. Just because another show is a stadium show doesn't make it WrestleMania. Yeah. We know what SummerSlam is, but SummerSlam is not WrestleMania. We know what, you know, all of these Money in the Bank, we know what all these things are, but none of them are WrestleMania. To try to make a second WrestleMania would be pointless. And so I think, again, that caliber of a match can only happen at WrestleMania. I just, to me, I think people, and this again is where the dirt sheets have created a problem. The dirt sheets have made us all believe that Cody is supposed to win the title at WrestleMania 40. But we have a couple of, if we're listening to the dirt sheets, we have conflicting stories. And here are the conflicting stories. Story number one, Cody has to finish the story at WrestleMania 40. Story number two, Roman has to beat Hulk Hogan's title reign. Well, if he beats Hulk Hogan's title reign, He's clearly going to have the title past WrestleMania. Which of these two truths is going to happen? They both can't happen. Cody can't finish the story at Roman's expense if Roman is going to break Hogan's record. So somebody's wrong. I don't know who. But with all of that said, the fact that we can get Roman and The Rock, I feel like this. There are major matches that WWE has missed historically, and they're not going to do it again under Triple H's watch. History buffs. You guys remember WrestleMania 8? When it was supposed to be Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan? That was supposed to be the big meeting at WrestleMania, and they switched it and it didn't happen. And WWE even never got that match on a major stage. Remember WrestleMania 31 when it should have been Sting versus The Undertaker? And we got Sting versus Triple H. Never going to have that happen again. They're not going to miss another massive marquee matchup. It's going to be Roman, The Rock, WrestleMania 40. It's the only place it can afford to happen.
I mean, the next question is, who's Said talking to? What's her name?
This is
who?
I am talking to my little sister. Chill out. Chill out.
I guess that's her name. His little sister.
His little sister, allegedly. Okay.
He's gonna bring her on camera. It's got to be his little sister.
It has to be. It has to be now.
You're my little sister.
Okay. All right. My little sister. If you knew that your brother is running the streets, I mean, I'm just saying.
That's about to pound the streets.
This is.
Look, I know nothing about that.
There we go. All right.
Wow.
That drop was unnecessary right there.
Wow. 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 So it gets interesting. And part of my other theory is this too. And this is just my theory. This is not anything anybody else has said. If we end up with Rock versus Roman at Mania for the championship, then that's a foregone conclusion. Like, I don't think anybody believes that The Rock is going to beat Roman Reigns for the WWE championship at this particular point in The Rock's career.
Right.
So there are a lot of very interesting things all at play at the same time, and they all can't happen. So that's why we have to just end up sitting back and watching and enjoying it. Somebody's going to get disappointed one way or the other, but I don't think those who are believing for Rock and Roman, I don't think they're going to be disappointed at WrestleMania. I think it's got to happen.
I mean, now that yeah, I feel like with The Rock, he wouldn't do. It has to be WrestleMania. Like,
it has to.
I couldn't see him because he's also in that position of power too, where, you know, because he said it when he was at the College Game Day in Colorado that they had many talks. So, you know, I'm sure it's a 50-50. There's a little bit of give and take, but I'm definitely sure that WrestleMania is on the table. It's not going to be anything else.
And in that same conversation, he said he wanted to do something that hasn't been done before. So now let me go back, because as I say that makes me think, could The Rock actually defeat Roman and win the WWE championship?
But then does that defeat the whole thing with the Hulk Hogan thing? I mean, we don't know if it's true or not.
We don't know.
So we're just going, we took that and it's like, well, it makes sense given Hogan's past and all the things, but we don't know if that's what
WWE they're going to celebrate. They're going to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Hulkamania this month.
Right.
Are they?
So
and then,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They're actually, so this is going to, but he's not scheduled to appear, but they're going to celebrate.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they're not distancing themselves from Hogan that much then. So, but I have to believe that same thing with Honky Tonk. I have to believe, like, once you're in it, that you're committed. And it's like, you'll never do something like this again. So, like, why not just see it all the way through? As far as breaking Hogan's record, it's like, why not just see it through rather than having to start over?
Well, here's the thing, though. We don't know if that's the plan for WWE, and I think somebody in the chat did say, and this is true
but this is a different era of, like, this is a different area of media. So, like, as people of color, we know that we're not going to let people forget those things Hogan said. It's always going to come up. It's always going to be bigger. It's always going to be at the top of the cycle when he It's on our television screens. You're never going to forget it. Social media is going to keep fanning that flame. So why not at least put a better taste in your mouth when somebody else that's on probably the greatest run of this modern era at number 3 all time?
I mean, I agree with you, and I also disagree with you, meaning that we won't forget because we are of that era. It's no different than how certain people say and use the N-word, because there are a lot of people under the age of 18 that don't look like us using it, and I don't think it's cool. You can't come out to the backyard barbecue of my family. However, it's okay in certain circles. You know what I'm saying? So and then there's a huge swath going even further back that don't know. They're taking certain things, and this is getting super political, but they're taking certain things out of books that they don't necessarily know what slavery is and all this other stuff. I had a person at my job think that Jamaican people just were there, not knowing that the Caribbean is just where they dropped them off first. Yes.
But you'd be surprised how many people don't know that.
Right. But I'm just saying, because yes, for us, we can see, we were there, we witnessed it. I'm sure you guys watched Hulk Hogan's reality show. Like, we saw all the things. There's a huge generation that, like, they don't know nothing about that. They know of the name, but they don't know nothing. Just think of like your mom and your dad and your parents who cried about that singer who was so impactful, and you may or may have not heard that one song they had, but they might have had 6 albums. It's yes, I get what you're saying, but you're also taking for granted that there's a whole generation that, you what you're passionate about, and this is a thing that people don't even realize. What you're passionate doesn't mean that the 12-year-old's passionate about it too. They don't know this man. Who is this man?
To that point, remember, and this was kind of a great wake-up call for me. Remember when Ella was on, and Ella would talk about, she was like not even born during the Attitude Era. Like, it's those kinds of things. So she never saw Stone Cold Steve Austin in the ring in real time during his prime. Most of this generation never saw The Rock in a wrestling ring. They know him as the actor. Yeah. And they only heard of him as. So it's interesting. It's like in the NBA when people have the conversation, who's the greatest of all time, Jordan or LeBron James. As days progress, the answer becomes less and less Michael Jordan, because the generation that lived during Jordan isn't necessarily becoming the prominent generation that's having these conversations. So that also makes this Hogan situation interesting, right? Like, is Roman right? So there's a level. So for instance, Roman can be deemed for many the greatest of this generation, just given the amount of time that he's held the title. Does he have to hold the title past Hogan to still have that record in the minds of people of this generation that he is the best of the generation and he'd be in that conversation? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, for instance, I don't think we're ever going to see anybody break Bruno Sammartino's 7-year record.
Absolutely.
That's not on the table.
The next one is Backlund, right?
So, but the thing is, because most people don't talk, and that's what's interesting. Bruno Sammartino, for a certain generation, was the greatest of all time. But here we are at this point, not even mentioning him like for real in the regular conversation, other than he had an extremely long title reign. So it does change based on the generation, which then makes what could happen with Roman very unpredictable. I don't know.
I think you have to I think it's an interesting conversation now that we actually have everybody's opinions and dive into it. I think it boils down to is like this Roman Empire, this bloodline storyline that we love so much, does this eclipse the root of Hulkamania and what that was? And I think we all grew up in that generation around that time where that was big. It was everywhere. And like your common person who doesn't even watch wrestling knew who Hulk Hogan was. And I think Roman has a little bit of that star appeal, but I think that's what weighs the pros and cons of him breaking it versus not. Because like you said, even if he doesn't, he can drop the title next week and we still say, hey, greatest champion of this modern era, greatest storyline we've seen, one top 5 in our lifetime that we've seen. easily.
Right.
So that's interesting.
And it's interesting. It's almost hard to compare the two, just because you really do have to look at how different the times were. For instance, during that Hulk Hogan era, there, in that particular time frame, you didn't have the internet. You know what I mean? So because you didn't have the internet, you did not have the situation where wrestling was as available. You didn't have, I'm just going to keep pushing. We didn't have weekly television shows that were live, right? Wrestling shows weren't live. So that's a different ball game, and then to think, even then, Hulk Hogan and the WWE had gotten so popular that they had a Saturday morning cartoon on CBS, right? Like that's a different level. You know what I mean? But again, times are different. And it's not to say that Roman and the WWE aren't having an impact, because WWE had their biggest year ever, according to Triple H and according to Money and all the socials in 2023. So it's just very wild. Can I help you?
I want to say some words.
Oh,
This is a great debate. I like this. I like this topic of conversation.
Okay.
This makes me really think.
You have just 30 seconds. Do not go
Dang,
crazy.
little professor now has his own headphones.
You guys are so funny.
Oh, thank you.
All right. What are you? Look, we are live right now. No. How did you even get in here?
Let's do that.
No. Say, all right. Hey, how about you tell them? Didn't you go to see wrestling last week?
Yes.
Tell them about wrestling.
Okay. Well, after say Silver Rail,
no,
then I can say so.
Talk about wrestling.
Silver Rail.
Don't say that part.
Okay.
Talk about wrestling.
So guys, so where was at the wrestling park? We saw somebody kick in the face. You know what I mean? I don't need a mic.
That's how they hear you.
I don't need a mic. I'm okay. I'm fine. I don't need it. I can use my outfit.
They can't hear you without the mic.
He said he pronunciates.
Just talk.
So for real.
No. Talk about what happened at wrestling last week.
So what happened? Wait. So for real.
Talk about what happened. No, talk about wrestling.
No, this is the beginning first.
No, you don't have to do that part. Just do just talk about wrestling. What happened? What happened? Tell them what happened. No, tell them what happened.
Hip-hop station. My name is Joel Meyer. So what happened last night? Somebody came in the face, and I saw somebody. I was hanging out with Miss Diane. After that, I scared someone, and somebody pranked some, and that was Miss Diane. So for real.
Wait. Did you get in the ring? Did you get in the ring? You did?
Yeah.
What happened when you got in the ring?
I did turn pill with you.
You did what?
I did turn pill with you.
Oh, you did?
No, I didn't.
You didn't. Well, what did you do in the ring?
Run?
You ran?
Yes.
Okay.
The car?
No, in the ring, when you got in the wrestling ring.
Yeah. And I just punched someone else in the ring. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, your time's up, bud.
What? I'm almost there.
Right.
I'm almost there. Yes.
You gotta go.
Wait.
Your time is up.
Hold on.
I'm about to turn us off.
So when everything come back, same thing happened back. So for real, because you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? So what I'm talking about is something was keep going around.
Wait. Okay, I have one. What was the action figure that you got when you were at wrestling? Who was it of? Cody Rhodes.
Yes.
Anyway.
Nice. That's awesome.
By the way, I was on the stage. I was on the stage.
That's right.
And somebody come out and somebody kick in the face. Now I will tell you the funny crazy about what. something went into this. So when the car was going,
Thank you. All right, you've done well. All right, we gotta go.
Dylan, I need that by the way clip. I need that by the way, by the way, by the way.
I know. We gotta go.
So
We
a
gotta go.
car flew in the air, and then so the car went so fast,
You don't have
and
to tell
then
that
the
story.
car, and some car just
All
got
right.
hit, and some car
Yes.
flew in the air,
Yes.
and
But
then
we're okay, right?
and then
We're okay.
somebody car went into a ditch, like
All right.
like
Yes.
one
All right. Thank you,
responsibility.
bud.
That's just like I
Thank you
need
so
to
much.
take a moment.
Thank you.
I need to take a moment.
Thank you. Thank
Let me
you.
set the
Thank
timer
you.
for you.
Nope, nope. You okay? You started it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Go that way.
I don't want
You have to sit down and be quiet. You cannot interrupt.
The
Oh,
applause
man.
was delayed. I went to take
Yeah.
applause when he got in the ring.
All right. All right.
Wow,
right.
wow. Well, I mean, the question is, who did little Professor?
The funny
Ring
part
with?
was, so I actually, can you close the door? So I went to change, and apparently that's when he got in the ring, and so apparently nobody got hurt. Everybody's okay. So we're good. That's fun.
I live for the day that Little Professor, when he becomes a team, and I get to see the dual broadcast with both of them. That's going to be a
That'll
sight.
be fun. It'll be fun.
Super fun. Super fun.
Okay, you had to sit down and be quiet.
We're in agreement. It's going to happen. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Oh my
All right,
goodness.
let's see if we can
A couple
finish our
things.
discussion.
Yeah, a couple things before we finish up the discussion is actually, well, we can talk about that on Friday.
I want to talk about the elephant. So it's the second item on the rundown. I feel like that was a
me
big
and
thing.
Professor like what we about to talk about.
I didn't mean to make it suspenseful. I just
Yeah, what do you have to say about Mr. Dream?
Oh, did you guys already discuss it?
No, we did not.
No, I think it's very interesting. I feel like that was one of those days over the past 2 weeks where the internet stopped. And I know we talked about it in our daily chat, how this was the first time he's gave more of a public formal apology. But kind of like we were just talking about with what were you talking about? With the like people will never let you forget, or they don't have to forgive you and all those type of things. A lot of it fell on deaf ears, even though there was a level of sincerity on there. There were some points that people made on social media where they felt like he missed the mark. But I thought it was interesting that the timing of all this occurred, because I feel like it's been some time since he's been dismissed from WWE programming or wrestling as a whole. If you follow him on social media, a lot of what he does is, I guess, family oriented or hunting, whatever it may be. He's completely moved on with his life. And nobody's actually checked in to see like what's going on with Velveteen Dream. I don't think he's got any bookings, anything of that nature. So the timing of this is very intriguing. The fact there's a formal apology, because it makes me think like, well, who was it for? He mentioned a lot of things about the people he affected that were close to him, whether it be family, friends, who are still affected to this day, because people tend to not forget or forgive and forget, and they probably maybe even harassed his loved one. So I think the timing was very important here. Also, if it was directed at anybody in the booking sphere, and now we get the news today that Booker T says on his podcast that he reached out to him directly about a potential return to wrestling. I didn't get a chance to dive into that, but I find that interesting. So I wanted to ask you guys, is this a possible, is there a redemption arc for Patrick Clark that is suitable for the public eye, where people will take everything that's been compiled, put it in one ball, and move forward?
I mean, it's dependent on the person. Like, I mean, we just finished talking about Hulk Hogan. There's gonna be a swath of people that in the celebration of the 40 years, they're gonna be like, why are we even doing this? And another part where it's like, okay, we get it, it's 40 years, blah, blah, blah. Another part where it's like, don't care. So I think it really just depends on who chooses to give him the second chance, because it's clear, like he could have built his own table and created his own wrestling promotion, blah, 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 blah. But that takes a business savvy and a business mind. Not to say he doesn't have it, but not everybody's built that way. So, I mean, it really just depends on the person. He didn't go to jail. The stuff that he did or alleged doing wasn't great. He got let go for it. But, it's almost like serving time. He got the punishment, he served his time, and this might be his time. If somebody served their time and they now come out of jail, do you still continue punishing them for the thing that they already served the time for? Like, at what point? And then, and that whole system, again, doing a little political thing, you have somebody who comes out of jail, they still now have to pay for this stuff. They still, they can't find certain jobs, they can't vote, they can't do this. So now what was the point of even serving time? You've now stripped away certain things from them. And if they didn't have the proper education or proper tools to deal with whatever they're dealing with before as to why they went to jail, they're just going to do it again. So it's a whole system over and over again. So do we, punish the person? We let them know that this is not kosher. This is not good. You've been banished. Now you come back. Don't make the mistake again. Else, like, clearly you haven't learned. So which is it? You can't claim to be, and not everybody does, but you can't claim to be, you can't want to be forgiven and then not forgive others. And nobody's perfect. So, again, I giving.
I feel like a lot of people do pick and choose their outrage in this day and age.
Of course.
Like the way we aim our outrage for certain people versus others. We talk about like entertainers versus people in power and politicians, things like that. I think that's a very trivial thing. That's a way different conversation. But like you said, Dream publicly paid his penance. Like literally, court of public opinion will seemingly never forgive. But I'm just curious if the people who are in power in these wrestling companies are willing to extend that olive branch, because like you said, did he go to jail? Was he convicted of any crimes, or was he just fired because of the smoke? And the smoke kept getting bigger and bigger as more engagement in the social media age was prevalent.
I think part of the issue that we have is, and this is not just in the wrestling community, this is just kind of the society we're in right now. There has not been an accepted or an acceptable path to redemption for anybody. We want people, and I'm going to say this carefully, the Me Too movement was necessary to really address people who had abused power. That was a necessary moment and movement. What I don't think people have done a good job with has been figuring out, okay, how does a person move on to a path of redemption and acceptance? And the reason why this is important is if we keep banishing people for whatever their human frailties are, that same level of judgment eventually will fall on us, because we're creating a scale that we can't even live to. We just can't. So I think that there, and I'm going to go on record, and some may not like this. I think the apology that Patrick Clark gave, which at this particular point, I don't know that anybody was sitting around going, hey, where's the Velveteen Dream? He's been long out of our purview, which means that obviously he's not been wrestling. I could, from the video, I couldn't tell if he was somewhere, where he was getting help or where he was. But the thing that I think is powerful is he gave what appeared to be an unsolicited apology. And it was an apology that was very detailed in terms of, it wasn't just the classic, if I did anything to offend somebody, I'm sorry. Like he really seemed to have taken ownership for, the compromising space he put a lot of people in. He named names, specifically from the WWE and people who he has been connected to. I've seen some people say, well, he didn't address the victims. Well, I don't know if he's addressed the victims at some point in this process. I don't know. I equally don't know if he has a desire to come back to wrestling, but I feel like at some point we've got to create, if there are people who are willing to say, yo, I messed up, I did the wrong thing, I'm going to get help, and they go and get that help, then if they want to come back, they should be given the opportunity. And again, I say this very carefully because it's a case-by-case basis. Let's remember there was outrage just a few years ago about one Sammy Guevara and the things that he had said several years back about Sasha Banks. They pulled him off of TV, and then they turned around and, he went and did whatever he needed to do, so be it. Let me also say this. I think that these decisions are decisions that end up being based on what works for these particular companies, right? Like, I don't know what codes of conduct are in those spaces. I don't know what they're, I don't know. And it's not for me to make that particular decision. What I do think is that, again, people have to be wise in what they do, and certain punishments need to fit crimes, whatever those particular crimes happen to be. The thing that I'm most concerned about is if we are going off of allegations and we're not going off of anything that is proven. Okay. If something is proven, it's a much different scenario than if it is alleged. And I think we've seen cases where certain things are proven, and we've also seen a number of cases where things are alleged. And I just think that we need to create a path for redemption for people. And that redemption doesn't always mean coming back to pro wrestling. Let's be clear. Doesn't always mean that, So in no way am I suggesting somebody who, codes of conduct don't mess with kids. I agree with that. But I'm also saying, let's be very, very careful, okay, in what we are doing based on allegations versus proven facts. That's what I am saying. And I think we need to be careful with that, because we have people who get outraged at the moment of an allegation, not realizing whether that allegation is true or not. Because where that's dangerous is people can start
Why
saying
put
anything
behind bars off of allegations
Yeah.
that is debunked
And
years later.
let me just say this, and No. As people of color specifically, we should be very sensitive to how people have made allegations about people of color over time that have not been true.
Brian Banks comes to mind.
There's a lot of people that come to mind. So all I'm saying is, number one, there needs to be a path of redemption for people. Number two, we need to be very careful in terms of what companies, decide to do, et cetera, et cetera. But we also have to remember there's a thing about proven fact versus allegations. And yeah, I'll just say that. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, also, I understand where you're coming from, Eddie, and this is where the legal system, and I have quite a few friends in correctional officers, police, lawyers, etc. They don't take too kindly to people who mess with children. So again, not saying that he did or he didn't, but with this screenshots and all this other stuff, then those allegations now become something that you can prove in court. Then there's all of that stuff. And again, we don't know what he's been doing. To me, with this apology, it seems like he's been doing some type of counseling or something where now he's, making his amends to all the people involved. We don't know what he's been doing for the last couple of months. We don't know if the people that were involved in all these allegations, they were already talked to. There's plenty of instances where we're holding, and I don't even bring this up because it's a whole nother conversation itself, where there's plenty of people, for instance, celebrities, where we're holding a certain celebrity under fire for something that that person did 10 years ago when that other celebrity has forgiven them. And we're like, nah, that other celebrity, they're friends, they hang out, their kids play together, all the things, but we're like, no, like we just don't know. So it's, you know, again, and it's not, I don't have a wrestling company. So WWE chooses not to bring him back, or AEW or anybody. It is what it is. If Booker T has him come and wrestle at his promotion, and you know that might be the start of something, or that might be that's as far as he goes. It is what it is. Are you now going to crucify Booker T for reaching out to him? So there's a lot of different things. Again, definitely the code of conduct, don't mess with children, but there's so many different. The devil's in the details. There's oftentimes people slang, just use one sentence for something, and then everybody jumps on that without knowing what the details are. And you know, now you know it is what it is. We're not giving him access to. Again, we don't know the promotions. These are not our decisions.
That's a reach.
These are not our decisions. So again, we don't know. However, you can't fault somebody for apologizing. And if you don't accept the apology, that's okay too. I mean, that's the great thing that where we are as far as in America. You know, he's done his apology. People don't accept it. People do accept it. People don't care. It's a mix of everything. With that being said, again, we don't have the power to give him anything. So it is what it is. Any other stories, he said, since you know you have the bow tie, you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Let me. So, I honestly don't know what you guys talked about first.
We honestly haven't talked about.
It's literally been 2 stories, which is Mercedes and Trinity, and this.
And you guys talked about the tweets, the TK, the fake TK tweets.
Yeah, that's just kind of
and how it rolls up into the gender stuff. So we already talked about that. What did you guys think of? Well, I heard you guys talk about Hard to Kill. We know Dalla is supposed to be at Hard to Kill, may wrestle, may not. That's been a beautiful thing to see. I will highlight that real quick. When you talk about going and getting it on your own, using your star power, he's been a lot of places where it's been college football, different appearances. This is when the professor talks about trend going to make yourself more reputable, if you want to say it that. Building a brand, putting it on your back. The brand of Dalla is so strong from his football ties alone, being a NFL veteran. I enjoyed the A&E shows because he has real deep-rooted fandom in his heart for pro wrestling as a whole. Doesn't have to. You're retired from NFL, I'm pretty sure you're well off, things like that. But seeing this type of stuff and seeing how you're at college bowl games, you're doing appearances in GCW, things like that, that just shows like an extent for the love of the game that you rarely see in pro wrestling. So whatever he does at Hard to Kill, he said he's always wanted to work or wrestle for TNA. I hope he does have a stint there. But I think this is going to be another case where somebody goes on their own, raises their value, and now a bidding war is going to ensue by the end of the year for their services.
I completely agree.
We have a question from Dylan. Said, where can we get that bow tie?
Oh, that's hilarious. I actually do not know if the site is still up, but my guy Dexter has a menswear brand called Dapper Gods. That's DAPPERGODZ. You can check that out. It might be on Insta. If it's not, the website is not active right now. Just check out Dapper Gods on Insta. All different types of fashion and colors. Yeah, get some stuff.
Yeah, Bob, we have so much to talk about. I mean, we've been off for like 2.5 weeks.
Lord.
But as far as AJ Francis, I definitely agree. I mean, coming from an NFL background, how could you not use? I mean, obviously, you also went to WWE, but how can you not use that as your leverage? This is where networking and connections really play a role as far as defining what you want to do next and how you want to do it. And you know, he didn't leave on bad terms; it just didn't work out. And you know, who's to say he can't go back? So, and then this partnership with Hard to Kill it's at the Palms. If you have watched any of Impact shows, it used to be at Sam's
Sam's
I forgot what
Town.
it's called. Sam's Town in Vegas. Now, if you've been to Sam's
Old
Town in
Vegas.
Vegas, yes, old Vegas, old
Yeah.
being the key word.
Yes.
Inside the venue is great. However, it's kind of the equivalent of, and I don't know what it is state to state, but it's equivalent of the Forum to SoFi. Like the Forum is old school. The seats are old school. We watched the AEW pay-per-view there in LA. It's a very old school feel. That's Sam's Town.
Yeah.
Palms, the capacity, the tick, like the more tickets, they actually just released more tickets, like the capacity there. I mean, if you're about that Vegas life, there's a very big difference between old Vegas and new Vegas. So what TNA is gonna do, down to even the video that they dropped, the TNA drop that they was in November. But if you look at the quality of the video, that was very like, this person works on movies for Disney or whatever, insert whatever big publication, big production. Like the quality of the video was just, I don't care who you are. You can edit your videos or you could do whatever and still look like you did it. But there's a difference from, I don't even want to throw this man's name. There's a difference from somebody else to a Marvel movie. The editing is impeccable. And the quality of video for that video to start off TNA, now that I think about it, and just even how they're dropping stuff and how they're doing things, leads me to believe that there's more surprises afoot.
I endeavor to think that there will be some very special surprises happening this Saturday. And the fact that we have seen this kind of rollout, I think it's funny. Sed mentioned earlier in the show about how these particular problems that Mercedes and Trinity were having were, big business problems, big money problems. If I could take from our good friend Prince Nana, we're in the money. We're in the money. And I think that's where TNA is right now.
Dylan, you already know what to do. Dylan, you already know what to do.
We're in the money. Do. We're in the money. Something special is happening with TNA. And I think you guys have to just pay attention. See it. Something tells me you might want to order this premium live event on Saturday. Because I think the streets are going to be talking.
The streets are going to be talking. Do you want to get to the NXT or do you want to save it for Friday?
We'll do it real quick. Congratulations, Obafemi, the new NXT North American champion. I love the way it happened. It was a brilliant move. We saw he was a star from the moment he hit television. Last week, of course, he won the breakout tournament. I don't know that anybody thought he was going to cash in this fast, but what it does, and I hope that it really impacts a lot of people in this chat, because a lot of people in this chat were talking about how upset they were that a main roster star had the North American Championship, whether it was Dominic Mysterio or Dragon Lee. That's not an issue anymore. It's back in NXT hands. So congratulations. I can't wait to see the development and the trajectory of Obafemi.
And then taking it off of a quote-unquote main roster star adds a leg up to his character, fresh off winning the breakout tournament. My question is, for fans of NXT that have been paying attention, when did the breakout tournament contract become Money in the Bank-esque, where you can just show up at any time? Because before, you had to actually have a formal match. You go talk to your GM and whatnot. I'm guessing that's Ava Rain these days, where you plan the time, not just show up on site. When did that become a thing?
Well, I don't know exactly when. It obviously changed. I don't have the exact date on that, but it definitely changed. And I like that feel, actually. I do.
Yes, yeah, it's a good wrinkle. So I'll say this publicly: Shawn Michaels, don't play with my girl. Give her the opportunity. Let her cash that thing on site at the next PLE. Make the change.
He's timing it right, and I think you'll be happy about that. He's timing it right.
Yeah, let the character build, let the character develop. I get it. But no,
there's going to be no
failure cash in.
You think it's going to be a breakup with her and her tag partner?
Absolutely. Honestly, I think Elektra Lopez is destined for the new stable with Santos. I think that's his missing link right now. And I think that's really what got Legado del Fantasma over in NXT. So I think having her as that staple will be awesome. Also with the new wrinkle with Angel and Humberto, they've needed that for years. I think that addition and then having Del Toro and Wild back in NXT will help them as a tag team as well. Because they used to put on some great matches in NXT. But also, and I hate that I got to preface this right. I guess I got to start paying attention to OTM now. I guess I have to start paying attention now that they're going to find their missing link in Jada Parker. That was a very well done segment.
Sense. So good. So good. So good.
Yeah, no, I normally don't like caricatures of culture. I normally really cringe at that stuff, but this has legs. Has legs now.
I thought you guys
literally and figuratively. See what I did there.
I don't know. I saw what you did. I saw what you did. I saw what you did.
Well, with that being said, this is our first episode of WWT for 2024.
There wasn't one on Monday.
That will be our first episode for 2024. We'll see you guys on Friday. I guess what said with the bow tie. He said, where can everybody find you?
For all my naysayers out there, you can find me on Twitter at CEDD_SAYS. You can find me on the gram at Said Is The Answer. Check me out on this platform Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you're interested in any journalism work, check me out on YouTube, Hawthorne Community Television, or CedricDWelton.com.
And Professor, where can they find you and Professor Junior?
You can find me at Bonnerfied on all of the socials. You can check out my commentary work with Southern Honor Wrestling and IWE on IWTV. Just had my first show back for the new year this past Friday. Got another show this Saturday in Augusta with IWE. You can also check out my work with All Caribbean Wrestling on their YouTube page, The Nightmare Factory on their YouTube page, Ashe Wrestling at AsheWrestling.com. And the dates are starting to stack up for this year, which is kind of cool. So as I mentioned, IWE this coming Saturday. 2 weeks from this Saturday, I'll be part of the Georgia Wrestling History Awards, where I've been nominated again for Commentator of the Year, which I'm pretty excited about. So we'll find out how that shakes out in about 2 weeks' time. And then February is going to be stacked. So yeah, got some good times coming.
There it is. Thank you guys so much for joining. Bobby, Dylan, Jeffrey. I saw JD, you were on IG. Eddie, everybody else.
Tyler, Special Nobodies.
Yes, Cousin
Ron. A lot of people here. I love
it. Down.
Yes, thank you guys for chiming in. We definitely love your opinions, and don't take it that I don't think you guys do, but we are right. We're just having a conversation, and we don't know. This is all. It's, to me, if it's not in the paperwork, it's not stamped by a judge or a lawyer. It is what it is. It's there's stories on top of stories. So we don't know. So happy New Year's, you guys. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. Make sure you check out Women's Wrestling Talk on all social media platforms at WW Talk Pod. Actually, because Said did interrupt me as I was getting this announcement ready. We have an interview dropping just in time for Hard to Kill. So Jody Threat, the pleasure of interviewing her earlier today. It's going to be dropping tomorrow. So we had some Canadian bonding. She is like from my part of Toronto, which was really keen because when you have, it's just like you say, somebody's from the US and it could be anywhere, but she's like from like my neck of the woods, and we had a very in-depth conversation about hot chocolate. So you definitely want to check all of that out. Other than that, let's get rid of this picture. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Till next time, guys. Ciao for now.
Howdy, folks. This is Willow Nightingale, and you are watching Women's Wrestling Talk.
I would love to wrestle with somebody.
Women's Wrestling Talk. The number